My guest today is the maverick financial guru Jim Rogers. When he speaks, markets listen. He made a fortune setting up what is now thought of as the first hedge fund with George Soros. His advice for years has been to invest in China or Asia and to buy commodities. And he's now turning his attention to the euro. Jim Rogers, welcome to Hard Talk.
I am delighted to be here. You don't know this, but I owe my life to the BBC, so I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, we look forward to finding out in a minute. But on this question of the euro, no one else seems to want the euro at the moment, but you are thinking of buying it, have been buying it?
Well, Sarah, when no one wants something, that should be a signal to you to think about buying it, because if everybody's sold it, then chances are it's time to buy it, at least for a rally. So yes, I bought some euros recently.
So are you buying them for the rally, or do you think that actually the European governments are getting their act together and doing the right thing on Greece?
Let me get the rally first. If I get the rally, then I'll answer the rest of the question. We'll see. No, the European governments are not getting their act together, not at all. But the euro could still go up, if nothing else, for a rebound rally, and maybe because it's less flawed than many other currencies. The problem these days, Sarah, is everything is flawed. All paper money is flawed, nearly every currency in the world.
But you have said about the situation with Greece, the best thing that could happen would be for Greece to go bankrupt, and all the European countries are doing everything they can to avoid that.
Of course it would be the best thing. If Greece went bankrupt, Greece is 2% of the European economy. Nothing. Very small economy. If it went bankrupt, it would send a signal to the world and to the rest of Europe, okay, we're not going to let people lie about their finances anymore. We're not going to let them spend money they don't have. We're going to run a tight ship. And if they run a tight ship, that means the euro would be an extremely sound currency. It would be the old Deutschmark again.
So when you say best, it's best for investors in the euro, not necessarily best for the people of Greece, nor indeed for the people of Europe.
No, that's not correct. It is good for the euro and it's good for the people of Greece. You've got to bite the bullet someday. You cannot just keep spending money you don't have, because eventually the whole thing collapses in a house of cards.
But look what happens if Greece goes bankrupt. I mean, the political turmoil that could follow as a result of that, a government unable to pay anybody to do anything.
I'm not suggesting it's going to be a good time, don't get me wrong, but remember, if you wait 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when there's nothing you can do and the whole system collapses, then you have real chaos in the streets. Then you have Greece never recovering. Look, Sarah, countries, I'm from the United States. In the United States, we've had states go bankrupt, cities go bankrupt, counties go bankrupt. It didn't end the United States. It didn't end the United States dollar. We recovered, and those states shaped up.
But the argument for helping Greece and other countries out now is that you're buying time for them to sort out their problems, that you're not saying, as you seem to be suggesting, this just means it'll all collapse in 10 years.
Do you really think that buying time is going to solve the problem? Even if you look at the Greek projections, they don't say they're going to be paying off their debt in the next 3 or 4 years. They're just saying we're going to have less. Our deficit's going to be less. That's not going to solve the problem, Sarah. We've got to do something else.
You are a lone voice, though, here, aren't you? Everybody else, and clearly the political leaders in Europe, look at this and think that the best answer is to try to find a way to keep Greece going.
That's because they're trying to get through the next election. I'm trying to figure out what's good for the country, what's good for the world, what's good for Europe, and what's good for the financial system and the economy. And if you just worry about the next election, that's fine. If that's your job, if that's your business, worry about the next election. I got other things to worry about. I have 2 little girls, I have a family. We're worried about the long-term future.
So, and your argument is that ultimately, all round, for all those concerned, it would be better if Greece went bankrupt.
Absolutely. Otherwise, wait, Sarah, what's going to happen? Now Spain knows, well, we don't have to do proper bookkeeping. Portugal, Italy, Ireland, everybody says, well, wait a minute. If something goes wrong, we'll get bailed out. Let's just keep spending money. Let's just keep borrowing money.
What about all those who have invested in Greece? And if it goes bankrupt and they don't get their money back, what about the risk of contagion that Greece goes under and then suddenly the pressure goes to Spain and Portugal and Italy?
I'm not suggesting this is going to be a good time, but remember, for the last 10 years, all of these people have spent money they didn't have. They've been lying about it. You can only do that for so long. Throughout history, countries have gone bankrupt. It has not been been the end of the... You go back to the late 90s. In the late 1990s, many Asian countries essentially went bankrupt. They reorganized, they had 2 or 3 horrible years of pain, and since then, they've all boomed. That would happen in countries here, too.
Do you not fear the political consequences that you could have? I mean, one doesn't know what would happen. Certainly the government would be thrown out. And what would replace it?
Another government.
Another government? How do you know that it would be another democratic government?
In Greece?
How do you know that there wouldn't be...
The worst that would happen is Greece is a small country. The worst that would happen, we'd have some kind of dictatorship in Greece. It wouldn't last either because they would be unpopular. Let's go to Scandinavia. In the early 90s, Scandinavia had the same problem. Huge debts. Everybody went bankrupt. It collapsed. People went bankrupt, they reorganized and started over, and Scandinavia has been fabulous ever since the early 90s. But there are
different political backgrounds. Do you not fear the idea of a dictatorship?
Well, of course I do. I don't particularly like dictatorships, but what are you going to do? So your suggestion is, well, let's just keep going along and spending all this money we don't have, and, you know, maybe we'll get through it, and maybe in 15 years everything will be okay. Maybe the tooth fairy is going to come and solve our problems. Maybe the Easter bunny is going to come and solve our problems.
No, but maybe the austerity measures that are being brought in and the attempts to try to rein the spending in and cutbacks, maybe they will sort things out.
Sarah, you're bad for my nervous system. I hope you don't really believe that. You know as well as I do that Greek politicians and Spanish politicians and English politicians, none of these politicians are going to do what they say.
And does Chancellor Merkel, Angela Merkel of Germany, know that?
Well, I will have to say I was shocked to find out what she did, a month ago when she said, okay, we're going to bail everybody out. Never in a million years did I think that a Chancellor of Germany who grew up knowing about sound currencies would do something like that.
If you had her ear now, would you say Germany should pull out of the euro?
No, I would say that Germany should make Greece go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt and prove to the world, anybody who cannot pay their debts, let them go bankrupt, prove to the world that this is a sound currency. You remember the Maastricht Treaty said everybody has to run a sound currency. Now, they've been avoiding it.
But doesn't the problem come when you say anybody who can't pay their debts become more difficult when the markets put pressure on them? They might have been sailing close to the wind, but they get into trouble when the markets put pressure. You let Greece go, the market's attention turns to Spain and Portugal and Italy, and everybody's running an overdraft.
But if the people who are sound, if the market turns to them, they will come through it okay. It's not going to be the end of the world, just as has happened in Scandinavia, just as happened in South Korea and other Asian countries. This is not the first time the world has seen this. And maybe you'd have banks going bankrupt. The world has seen banks go bankrupt before, and they've survived, and countries have survived trauma like this.
Is it true that you said the pound is finished?
Well, I certainly did, and it is.
What do you mean when you say it's finished?
Well, as far as being a currency that I would invest in or that I think has a sound future, the pound sterling, the UK has been running huge debts, international debts, for 25 years now, balance of trade deficits for a long, long time. And it's going to get worse. The North Sea oil is drying up. City of London is drying up. I don't see anything on the horizon which is going to fill those two large foreign currency earners. So the pound sterling will suffer from a continued growing deficit in the balance of trade. And you're one of the largest debtor nations in the world. Now listen,
there's a new government that's talking about getting a grip on things. Do you not think that they can?